1874, the podcast with Dan Bardell and Greg Evans.
Hello and welcome back. I'll start to early. Hello and welcome back to the 1874 podcast. I'm your host, Dan Bardell, joined by a giggling Greg Evans because I've just made a mistake just before we started. And we're here to review Aston Villa's game against Fulham where they won 3-1 and to talk about Ezri Konsa getting called up to the England squad, amongst some other things and some other segues that I'm sure we will get onto. Thanks ever so much for tuning in. I want to say at the start, for once, we really appreciate all the support that we've been getting. People really seem to enjoy this chat on a Monday. So thanks ever so much. It's something obviously we're trying to do that's a little bit different to what's out there, and everyone seems to be enjoying it. So thank you very much. Plenty of nice comments at the game yesterday, and it's always appreciated, isn't it, Greg?
Yeah, lots of nice comments. Appreciate it. I think we're in a bit of a rhythm now, aren't we? Getting as many Mondays in. I had a fair few weeks where I was missing games and missing Mondays, but we're in a bit of a flow now, so it's all good.
Yeah, a bit like Villa, aren't we? Monday's part of the routine, just like winning at Villa Park seems to be absolutely part of the routine for Aston Villa Football Club now. Before we get into it, just want to have a word for our sponsors, Nordvpn. We'll hear more about them later, but if you want to grab your exclusive Nordvpn deal, you can go to 1874.io/NordVPN and you'll get a huge discount off your Nordvpn plan, and you'll also get 4 months for free. It's completely risk-free because Nord offer you a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you want to help support our channel and you've got a use for NordVPN, we know times are tight, but it is very, very helpful. Saturday 3 p.m, then go and check out our discount and get yourself some NordVPN action. Greg, we woke up to the news this morning that Ezri Konsa had been added to the England squad along with Cole Palmer and Rico Lewis. Obviously, we're not as bothered about that, but good to see them in the squad as well. But this feels like something that's been a long time coming. It seems like Lewis Dunk withdrawing has opened up a door for Ezri Konsa. He's played for England at youth level, played for the under-21s, has played international tournament football actually for the under-21s. That's usually the route Southgate likes, but it's taken us some time to get Konsa to this point. How has he got here?
Well, by playing, 47 straight games for Aston Villa and performing really, really well. I think I was in the gym exercising this morning before the news broke, and I was thinking, I'm going to write something this week or maybe talk in a little bit more depth on this podcast about Ezri Konsa and, why it's a travesty that he hasn't been called up to England, and then, the news filtered through. This morning, I think it was Mike McGrath at the Telegraph who broke the story initially. So yeah, good scoop there. But yeah, look, fully deserved. I mean, he's playing regularly, and consistently in a team that are performing very well in the Premier League, and you just wondered how long it was going to be before he got recognised. So I think it's about the right time. It's a shame that he's been called up on the back of somebody withdrawing, but look, it's a start, and hopefully he'll make a big impression.
England have already qualified as well, haven't they? So these games are meaningless in some ways, but actually that might work in his favour because we know Southgate likes to go with his tried and trusted. He's quite regimented, Southgate, but he might be a little bit more fluid in this camp with how he distributes minutes because England are already there.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Southgate does get that. He comes under criticism for that. But if you think back to Maddison last season, kind of integrated him in quite late, and then took him with the rest of the squad to the World Cup, wasn't it? So, I think if players impress so much, then they do get the chance. Villa, I think players in general have felt quite hard done by over the years. There was the Grealish debate that went on for so long, and then Mings was in and out, and then Ollie Watkins, and you're wondering what more can Watkins do to get in, and Konsas kind of the last one, off the bus and onto the bus, so shall we say. But look, it's the right time for him. I think he's performing really well, and I think he'll go and do himself proud. I hope he gets some minutes. And I hope he's a very sort of calm and composed person as well as a defender. So he won't get nervous about this. He'll just sort of take it all in his stride. I'm looking forward to seeing him in an England shirt.
Yeah, we'll come back to Konsa, but just briefly, as you've just touched on there. Is there anyone left for us to complain about to get an international call up now? I can't think of it.
Ramsey's the next one when he's
Ramsey, I suppose. Yeah, we'll move on to him now. I think he was obviously playing under 21s before. I guess Moreno hasn't played for Spain. I don't think there could be a case for him.
No, and you wonder at 29, or he might have crossed 30. I don't know. I can't remember since he joined, but you wonder if his time's almost passed. But it's quite quite old, isn't it, to get called up as a fullback? But
It does happen for Spain and Italy, though. You've seen a few
yeah,
players over 30 get call-ups actually over the year to the Spain squad from absolutely nowhere. Same with Italy, if my memory serves me correctly. So you do never know, Greg. But yeah, back to Konsa. He's been tremendous since Emery came in. I think towards the end of Gerrard's reign, he was really struggling. I remember coming on this show and other stuff and just saying at the time, I felt he needed to be taken out for his own good because he wasn't playing the football that I knew he was capable of, that he played under Dean Smith that lockdown season, where I think, there was a lot of calls from us to get him in the England squad then because he was performing so well. He kind of lost his way a little bit along with the club, really, actually, under Gerrard. But since Emery's come in, we've just seen a lot more from Ezri Konsa, and particularly this season with Mings being out. He's actually had to come up and take on a lot more responsibility and do some of the things that Tyrone Mings does. As a centre-back, I mean, we said this about Luiz as a central midfielder as well, and obviously he's been called up for Brazil now as well. Konsa doesn't really have a weakness in his game for a modern-day centre-half. My only criticism of him would be he never scores off set pieces. But, he hasn't, that's not really a big deal, but he doesn't really have weaknesses as a modern-day defender, does he?
No, he doesn't, and I don't mean this disrespectfully, but he doesn't stand out in a certain department either. He's very much an 8 out of 9, an 8 or 9 out of 10 in everything, isn't he? He's quick, he's good in the air, he's good on the ball, he's quite strong, he reads the game well, he can pass out from the back. He's starting to get a little bit more of a threat at set pieces. I've noticed that in more recent weeks. So he's not that vocal, but he can be vocal when he needs to be, and he's not aggressive in the tackle. He doesn't sort of step out very often, although he did notice he was a little bit with Raul Jimenez yesterday. But he kind of just gets on with it, doesn't he? And does it, and there's just, it's a no nonsense approach from him. And look, previous, I think it was John Terry who used to pull the defenders when he was assistant coach at Villa, and he used to say to them, look, go out there and try and be the silent man almost. That was his message. If you're not getting seen, you're doing a good job. And I think with Konsa, we see more of him now because he's on the ball so often, but in his defensive role, I think he's kind of taken that on. He never seems to make many mistakes, does he? Just goes about it and gets the business done.
It's progressive passing that's come on for me. I think he was always capable of doing it, but that wasn't really the way that Villa played out from the back under previous managers. But under Emery, there's obviously this high emphasis on playing out from the back. And Konsa can actually break the lines with this passing as well. He can carry the ball out because he actually carries the ball quite well as well. And we've seen him play at right back as well in certain games. I guess it's that side now that Emery's managed to coax out of him because that's the way Emery wants to play. And actually that's helped Konsa develop his game even further, because I feel like even though he was good at it, he's actually got better at it now.
Yeah, so I mean, some of the whispers I was hearing when Emery first arrived was that Ezri Konsa would be the one that would perhaps struggle to keep his place in the team and would maybe be moved on or pushed back to sort of third or fourth choice defender, in the times ahead. So I think what he's done has been brilliant. First of all, he's tactically intelligent, so he can listen to something that's asked of him and go and execute it without a problem. But also, he's a very quick learner, and he wasn't the best passer out from the back. He wasn't this cultured sort of centre half who could start attacks, break lines, carry the ball successfully and not be sort of look like he's under any sort of pressure, and then make the right decision from there. That a lot of that has been to do with the work that he's done under Emery and his coaches, and the relentlessness of the work. Working on the same patterns of play every single day in training, etc. But clearly he had it in him because he's showing that now. So I think that's one of his that's one of the biggest compliments you can pay to him. If you ask him to do something, he typically tends to be able to do it quite well.
Yeah, I put a tweet out earlier to get some of the people that listen to this podcast and the people that follow us on X to see what they think. And the question I simply asked was, as a defender, what would you say is Konsa's best quality? So I'll just rattle through a few that we've got here. AVFC Faithful asked for one. He's given us two. Positional play and recovery pace, two key areas. Matthew Krulak is actually the son of, remember General Krulak, part
Remember him well.
of the Randy Lerner era. He's either, I think he's the son of General Krulak. I could be wrong. He says his consistency. You will rarely ever see him make a mistake and can count on him to make the right decision 99% of the time. Dan
Yeah,
Reynolds,
that's probably how I would read it as well. That's how I'd describe him. Yeah,
some good synopsis, good analysis actually. In here, Dan Reynolds, who was the ball boy who got lifted up by John Carew, says reading of the game, he's always one step ahead. Because actually, that's something that constantly you say he doesn't stand out. It's because he never has to dive in. Really, he never has to get his shorts dirty because it's always just in the right place. Ezri Konsa, he did make a really key interception actually in the first half to knock the ball out for a corner, which was a great bit of defending yesterday. But generally, doesn't spend much time on the floor, Konsa, because he just reads the game so well.
Yeah, he doesn't step out very often, does he? I think that's something we've seen over the years. That's just his style of play. But when he needs to, he can, get down and dirty, I think.
Yeah, Adam Wright. His best quality is as each game passes, he reminds me of Paul McGrath more and more. I rate him that highly. Now, I'm similar age to Adam, so I did see McGrath play for, I think, maybe two seasons or 2 seasons and a half. But I don't. When you're young, you don't notice defenders. You notice the striker, the number 9, don't you? So I can't say. Look, I know he was a world class defender, and everyone says how good he was, but I can't. I don't feel like I can judge that because my memory of McGrath, because I was so young, isn't that clear. And you're even younger than me, so you're not going to have seen McGrath play either. But Adam's not the only person that's saying stuff like that. There is a lot of Villa fans that are making that comparison. Do you think that's a bit too far, or do you think that's fair?
It's really difficult, as you say. I'm a little bit younger than you, so I haven't got the background of watching McGrath play. The only knowledge I've got really, other than watching footage of him, is speaking to people that played with him. And if it wasn't for his, shall we say, unique preparation for games, many of them say that he could have been the best in the world, and if not, was among the very best at the time, even with the way he prepared for games. So it's difficult, but I mean, what I think what we can accurately say now is that Konsa is playing in a Villa team that, for anybody under 34, 35, most people haven't seen a Villa team as good or consistent as this. So the bar is very high. If you're in this Villa team now, in any position, you're doing really well, and you're worth a hell of a lot of money.
Yeah, I do. I've got my best Villa 11 in my head, and I will only ever make a change if someone leaves. So basically, the last person to be integrated into my best ever all-time 11 is Jack Grealish.
Yeah.
So I do wonder, over the next 5 years, if I revisited my best 11, I do wonder how many of this team will get in, because I'm heavily influenced by probably the Brian Little and John Gregory eras, because they were really good teams, and then there's the odd player like Grealish, Benteke, who've found their way into that team over the years. Gareth Barry's in my team as well, but overall, it's probably at least 6 are from that Brian Little and John Gregory era, because it was the last really good Villa team I saw. O'Neill's team were good as well, but that was the first really good team I saw as a Villa fan. I do wonder how many of these players would make people's best 11s. I'm guessing the people that are younger than me, a lot of them.
Yeah, well, 100%. I mean, you're looking at Martinez. We'll get into most.
Tough with Bosnich, though. It's really tough.
Difficult, but Martinez, he's just been named the best goalkeeper in the world. He's won the World Cup as well. So I know that isn't Villa related, but to have a goalkeeper of that level who played a real serious part in those major honours for Argentina, almost got there. He's going to be in most, isn't he? I think Watkins and Mcin, they're edging towards that now, just with their performances. And look, how good's Diaby going to be in the future? So
yes, it's interesting. That is, like you say, people who are younger than me. I'm 38. They won't have seen better. They won't, because they'll have probably been too young. Just like I was probably a little bit too young to notice McGrath. They'll probably be a little bit too young to remember some of the players, great players that I watched in those eras. So yeah, it is fascinating. Just go through a couple more of the Konsa comments here, because I like these too. Chris Cash, again, he's alluded to Paul McGrath as well, says he just seems to have the ability to slow down time by reading the game so well, like Paul McGrath. and nobody can dribble past him. That was what people used to say about Paul McGrath. No one could dribble past him. And everyone used to go on about Van Dijk. He doesn't get dribbled past. Konsa doesn't really get dribbled past either. In fact, has he even been dribbled past at all?
I mean, over the seasons, even when he was having a slightly dip, when there was a slight dip in his form, very rarely did strikers or attackers get past him. He was always one of the hardest defenders to get past. So, yeah, I'd take that. It's a very valid point. Lots of good valid points there. Yeah, thanks for everybody who commented on that. It's nice to include a few thoughts, isn't it? Because obviously we have our own thoughts, but football is just a game of opinions. Most supporters that go and watch the game see similar things to us, but also notice other little quirks as well.
Yeah, this is talking to quirks. This is a little quirk. I've got to say, I have noticed this and not really brought it up, but I think it's valid. He's Robert Parker. This is his ability to buy a foul, gets himself between man and ball and hits the deck. Must do it 2 or 3 times a game. Probably our most foul player. It stops the opponent's building pressure. Maybe not his best ability, but that's an underrated part of his game. Now, Petrov in midfield, I thought always used to be brilliant at that. He'd always just buy a foul at the right time. And actually, Konsa did it in the first half yesterday. Yeah, I said about not getting his shorts dirty. He does do. If he spends time on the floor in that way, doesn't he? He does do that side of the game. It's not dark arts, is it? That's just clever.
I mean, it's a little bit. It's his cleverness, isn't it? It's just clever. It's just that bit of experience as well. Young defenders don't do that so much because they're not well drilled in the the rigors of Premier League football. But Konsa is now. He's a very, very good Premier League player, and now an international player as well. So fair play to him.
Yeah, I really hope he gets to make his debut. That would be a the sign of he's had a great few months with Villa. He's had a great year, really, hasn't he? New contract in there as well.
Yeah.
He must feel really settled and really on top of his game. Like, it could have really disrupted Villa's back line. Tyrone Mings being out. I've always said I think Mings is the number one centre half, and this might be a bit of recency bias for me. But even when Mings comes back now, because Mings and Pau Torres are both left-sided, you could argue Konsa's now the number one centre half potentially.
I mean, look, it's hard to dislodge those two now. You wonder what would Villa do? I mean, do you move to 3 at the back to accommodate Mings and play that way? They have done that at times this season with Carlos in there as well. I just think it's good for Villa to have so many options. The aim now every season is going to be competing in lots of competitions as deep as possible. So they're going to need a squad. You look at Newcastle now, really struggling with injuries. I mean, who would have thought Newcastle would have all those injuries? You look at the team that they played, the starting lineup. It was probably only Trippier and Pope who were the first team player, regular first team players. So imagine if Villa lost 7 or 8 first team players. It can easily happen. So that's why you need a squad, and that's why Villa having 4 very, very good centre halves and Clement Longley is important.
Also, Villa have just had 4 players out for the entirety of the season, who 3 of them I think most people would have put in Villa's best 11 at the start of the season as well. So the way Villa have handled that, I think, has gone under the radar. I don't think there's enough praise going around for how Villa have managed that, because it's in the headlines about Newcastle's injuries at the moment. Villa have had 4 players out for the entirety of the season. Before we get on to the Fulham game, let's just hear a little bit more from Nordvpn. 1874 is proudly sponsored by Nordvpn, so when the Villa are playing and you can't watch it, we want to help you. Nordvpn is a secure and private service which works on pretty much any device, including your laptop, mobile and your smart television. So if you want to watch some live content, it allows you to appear like you're in another country. And whilst you're connected, no one else can find out what you're doing, including your internet service provider. Beyond this, the service also has threat protection baked in to protect you from intrusive website ads and malware, which is pretty handy for you. As part of Nordvpn supporting 1874, they have given us an exclusive deal of up to 65% off and 4 months for free. This also includes Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. All you've got to do is go to 1874.io/NordVPN and sign up. All the details are also in the description. Also, this November, Nordvpn are also promoting Movember, which is a charity based in the UK which raises money to help fight mental health, suicide, prostate cancer and testicular cancer. All are amazing causes, and Nordvpn has added a donation feature to their checkout which enables new users to donate £1, £5 or £10 or whatever the customer decides to donate. And even better, Nordvpn will match every donation. As always, we're very grateful to anyone that signs up. We know that money is tight, but if you think Nordvpn will help you out, it will also help keep the channel running and help us too. So Sunday afternoon, another Sunday afternoon stroll for Villa at Villa Park. Jacob did an article on The Athletic this morning that alluded to it being like, turning your favourite film on. You know exactly what's going to happen every time you watch it, but you still watch it, and that Villa fans must be feeling like that when they go into Villa Park. Now, it was eerily similar to the Luton game. Winning 3-1, even the way that they went 3-0 up and conceded a consolation goal. There's so many similarities in that game. One of the differences, though, came in the team selection, Greg. So I think we've been saying that at the moment you can pick 10 of Villa's 11, because Mcin has obviously been out injured. 10 of Villa's 11 have really been the first choice this season, and it's that 11th position that's been quite fluid, and it's been Zaniolo, it's been Bailey, sometimes it's been Carlos, and Cash has moved forward. But Tielemans actually threw his hat in the ring to be that 11th man, or to be part of that rotation yesterday, because he put in a very strong display. And he's getting better now, isn't he, Tielemans?
Well, he's getting better, I think, because we're seeing him a bit more, aren't we?
Yeah.
So we didn't see him enough at the start of this season. I thought he was impressive. I thought he worked really hard. I thought he, made some really impressive runs. Almost played the Ramsey role, didn't he? And played it quite well. I think he's a completely different player to Zaniolo. You're not going to get the sort of skill and flair that Zaniolo has. But I think what you do get is a little bit more consistency when he does get the ball. If Zaniolo gets the ball 10 times, 7 out of the 10 might be exciting, and 3 you might wonder what's he doing. But with Tielemans, you just get that touch more reliability and consistency. And I think he made that position his own, and sort of staked a claim to keep it moving forward. Look, he'll go off to Belgium now, won't he? And
a lot happier.
Yeah, he will be happier, and look, hopefully he returns, with some more minutes in the bank. And he was decent. I think it was his cross, wasn't it, for the first goal? Diaby probably would have stuck that away if it wasn't the own goal. Anthony Robinson had a bad day, didn't he?
Unfortunately, I picked him out as a good player in the preview. The main Dave Reid did.
He had a bad day, and I think that was largely down to Matty Cash, who was superb. Really, really impressive performance from him, up and down throughout the game. Made some really important tackles and interventions. Often these sort of unsung players don't get the recognition that they deserve. I thought Cash was brilliant yesterday, among a fair few others.
Yeah, Tielemans, it was an interesting performance, because we have actually seen him play that role previously in disjointed teams where we've made lots of changes. It's not really happened for him, but putting him in that position with Villa's best, strongest team really reaped the benefit of that yesterday. And do you think it maybe was game specific, because Fulham, we thought, might come and try and defend quite deep and be quite dogged? Do you think it was game specific that he played that one?
Yeah, I think so, and I think the Forest game would have been going over Emery's mind. I think he'd be thinking, look, I need to change something to make us a little bit more unpredictable, because I think in the back of his head he would have been a little bit concerned with the Forest game, because he'll be thinking, have teams worked us out now? We need to do something a little bit different, whilst also maintaining our beliefs. Let's try and just add that little bit of mystery into our game. And Tielemans, starting, took a lot of people by surprise. I think it was very much 4-2-2-2, wasn't it? The typical formation that he played so often at Villarreal. Often using 4 central midfielders in those areas, but just advancing a couple and keeping a couple back. I think there was a nice balance to the midfield. You had Louise. Louise, he's lovely to watch now, isn't he? Just, a genuine press-resistant midfielder now. Somebody who gets the ball in tight areas and just moves it around lovely and keeps the ball ticking, the moves ticking along, and Villa moving forward. Kamara very similar, but has got a little bit more of a touch of aggression in his game. And can help win the ball back when he needs to be. Mcin, hopefully we'll go into him a little bit later, because he deserves a section of his own of how good he was. And then Tielemans with his unique skill set. So it was just a nice blend of midfielders there. with Dina and Cash pushing forward as and when, and then the two up top causing their own damage. So just felt like it was pretty much it was just so easy for Villa, wasn't it? I didn't think they played very well, but it was just like you knew that they were going to, as soon as they scored the first goal, then they'd be in total control, and then the second, all the jeopardy's gone, and they go on to just routinely win it. It's just, you just expect it now, and it's a dangerous position to be in from a supporter, because you go there and when it goes wrong, you feel a little bit upset and frustrated. But 13 wins in a row at home is just, we're almost in unprecedented times here, aren't we? It's just incredible.
Yeah, even though I wasn't born the last time that happened. I think it was 40 years the last time Villa won 13 league home games
13
in a
league
row.
wins in a row in the Premier League is insanely good. It's just, not enough has been
That's
made.
Man City.
It's incredible. I think it's only Man City and Atletico Madrid who are on a longer unbeaten run at home. Across the top 5 leagues, it's just fantastic.
I haven't even drawn one. That's the amazing thing, not to have had a draw, thrown in there when they've been 1 goal ahead. They've clung on to games as well when they've needed. So I mean, the next 2 home games are Manchester City and Arsenal. So it could be that run comes to an end. But actually, I'm really excited to see what we do.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. I think only Manchester City and Atletico Madrid are the teams that are on a longer unbeaten run at home, and that's in the top 5 big leagues in Europe. So, I mean, that's that speaks for itself, doesn't it? It's an incredible record, and one that we really should be, enjoying and just highlighting a lot more, because it's very, very rare that these records, come up.
Yeah, I think maybe that's one thing that you could level at Villa, that in this 13-game run, obviously you can only beat the teams that you play against. They haven't come across top-level opposition yet, and that's what these next 2 home games are. Manchester City and Arsenal is going to be really intriguing to see how Villa get on in those games. I'm really, really excited, because the last time a big team came to Villa Park, or one of the really big teams, Villa Park wasn't this fortress that it is now. You get this feeling now. I always would just back us to beat anyone at home, and obviously, City and Arsenal are going to be really tough games. But still, I think they come here with plenty to fear, and you just know with Emery as well, there'll be something unique. There'll be some form of game plan. There'll be something different from what the games have seen before, and that is the really, really massive thing that I don't think teams can predict what Villa are going to do. They'll know the setup, because the setup essentially doesn't really change, but there's always these little bits of intrigue and little tweaks in there. And seeing him come up against Pep and come up against Arteta, I'm really, really excited for those 2 games.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to them as well, because I think it will go a long way. Genuinely, it's not going to be season defining or anything like that, but it will go a long way to show how close Villa are to these teams now, and whether they can, genuinely mount a push for a top 4 place. Or, I mean, look, I'm really not getting carried away here now, but they are only 3 points off the top, and it's like, if
Greg
we're
Evans predicting
I do still think Man City, Liverpool, and Arsenal are the 3 standout teams in the division, and I think there are a couple more that are going to be competing for 4th and 5th place. Chelsea is starting to show signs of coming good, which inevitably was always going to happen with the amount of money that they've spent and the quality of player that they've got. But it's going to be really interesting to see how Villa hold up against these 2 teams, and the fact that they've got them at home is great, because Man City's wobble, or whatever you want to call it, slip up that they've had this season have been away from home, obviously losing to Wolves, drawing at Chelsea, and losing to Arsenal. Arsenal, I think, have 5 games now in all competitions away from home without a win. So their home form's formidable, but on the road they're stuttering a little bit. So Villa are going to fancy their chances. And if you just go back to the Arsenal game and Villa lost 4-2, you've got to remember it was 2-2 for a very long time. And that was I've mentioned this on previous podcasts, but that was a real turning point for Villa. Emery didn't like what his team did when it was 2-2. So this is going to be very different now. They're going to be a much more well organised. They've got a few new players in there that make them more of a threat. I think it's going to be really, really interesting. But I just, on the flip side of it, I do think, and we go on about this every week, and I look at Fulham yesterday, and Fulham had done things a little bit different. They might have found some gaps in Villa's high line. Just going to be interesting to see how Man City and Arsenal try and pick apart that high line, because look, if an opponent gets it right, it can be really damaging for Villa, as we seen at Newcastle on the opening day of the season.
Yeah, even this next game away at Tottenham after the international break, might be a good time actually to play them because the injuries are suddenly piling up for them, and they've had a couple of bad results, haven't they? After being unbeaten, they've now lost two in a row. So I think Villa can go there kind of, and Tottenham be a team that it might suit Villa playing a little bit away from home. It might actually, because Tottenham will just play their way, I think, and I think that might suit Villa in transition. So it'd be really interesting after the international break. Let's just talk about a couple more players with yesterday's game in mind. Let's talk about Leon Bailey, because quite often now, the fans are quite often referred to as the 12th man, but Leon Bailey has literally become Villa's 12th man in recent weeks. He's the first sub off the bench in most games now, Leon Bailey, and when he comes on, he seems to be making an impact and had a heavy involvement in Villa's third goal, didn't he?
He's a different player now. I mean, I hold my hands up, and I think most people listening will agree with me here. And we all felt that Leon Bailey was just never going to cut it at Villa. For a couple of seasons, he just underperformed. He was a little bit of a scapegoat, wasn't he? Every time Villa had a bad result, it was, Leon Bailey was rubbish again today. Some of that was justified. Yeah, I mean, I think Leon Bailey, what we're seeing now, is a completely different player. He feels like he's a player that needs to be loved, and like Emery must be showing him something, because players typically, if they feel loved, they're playing regularly, and he's not. He's coming off the bench and making an impact, and deep down, that's not where he wants to be. He wants to be playing every week, scoring regularly, but being a real part of the team. And okay, he's a big part of the team. He's their 12th man, if you want to call him that. Villa only made one substitute yesterday, and that was him. And
I didn't even notice that. You're right, yeah.
Yeah, he come on and made a big difference, didn't he? And I think Villa have only used something like made 8 or 9 changes, I think, over the 12 games, which is the fewest of any team. When you compare that to Liverpool, who have made, I think, 56, it's pretty incredible, the amount of changes between games. So, Bailey, I think I certainly hold my hands up and say I didn't expect him to get to this level this season. I thought his time at Villa was almost up. I thought that I'd seen enough of him in 2 seasons to suggest that, he just wasn't quite at the level to make a real impact. And I presume most of our listeners, agree with that.
Yeah.
He was very much a scapegoat, wasn't he, at times, when Villa performed badly. Often he would be the one that was dug out. But, what we're seeing now is somebody who can either start or come off the bench and make a real big impact. And that's great, because there was a worry that Villa might have to go again and buy somebody else and spend a lot of money, but maybe they've got that player already in the squad.
Yeah, we're seeing a heavy emphasis now on starters and finishers. Arteta doesn't call them subs; he calls them finishers, doesn't he? And, with the 5 subs, subs are playing a bigger part in the game than they once were. And Bailey does seem happy, does seem to be enjoying his football. I will say his form has coincided with him, or his good form has coincided with him wearing his socks like Jack Grealish. So he needs to keep having those low socks. They seem to have made the world of difference to his games. To keep those low socks going. It's only right to finish the segment on Fulham really by talking about John Mcin. Now, in the first half yesterday, he absolutely run the show. He was everywhere. He was fouled about 100 times by João Paulinho alone. He just seemed to be absolutely everywhere. Mcin, I put a tweet out at half time saying I wasn't aware that the owners had passed on the deeds of the stadium. But yeah, John Mcin has owned Villa Park in that first half because he was absolutely brilliant. I can't speak highly enough of how good John Mcin was in that first half.
He was sensational, wasn't he? It's the fact that we're 30 minutes in and we're only really getting into it. It's a bit wrong of us, but no, he was brilliant. A genuine joy to watch. It was like, it was John Mcin at his very best. We've seen that so many times. And when he puts in a performance like that, it's brilliant to watch. I wonder if Bayern Munich had any scouts there watching Paulinho, because if they were trying to get him back and they were looking at what John Mcin did to him, they might be thinking maybe we should go for him instead. But no, look, he was fantastic. Another good goal. I think, going back to Cash, I think that Cash made a really clever run that kind of opened up the the defence for him for that goal.
Yeah.
And that's just the benefit of Villa throwing men forward when they need to. But yeah, lovely, well taken goal. But it wasn't his goal that really stood out, was it? It was the fact that it was his all-round play. The great work on the break when Villa got their third goal. Using his backing into defenders and
squeezing through,
using his strength to his advantage there. But yeah, just had a mix of everything: bit of grit, bit of determination, bit of skill, a goal, a pre-assist or whatever you want to call it. And yeah, just an all-round very good performance. And look, from one of Villa's just top guys, you want to see these players that have got a real connection with the supporters, doing well. His history at the club, he's been there through the darker times when Villa were trying to get out of the Championship. And now he's here at the real bright times. So yeah, brilliant for him.
It's great that really that three key players for Villa are three that were part of the side in that first Premier League season, which was a real struggle and stayed up by the skin of our teeth that year. Konsa, Mcin and Louise. The three players that were part of that squad and have been on this Premier League journey with Villa all the way through.
Of course, as well, when he's fit,
Yeah, it's brilliant to see. I think the fans have a lot of love for the players that have obviously been there for the longer time, and it is great seeing. Quite often we'll say, "Oh, the player really deserved that goal." In the first half, John Mcin thoroughly deserved that goal that he scored. He even managed to get in the double goggle celebration as well, didn't he? He did it twice as well, so he got the double goggles in for the celebration as well. Not sure if we've got a press box archive. Very inconsistent. Oh no,
we're going to do these fortnightly now because
we're supposed to be doing them weekly, Greg. You can't just say, "Oh, we're going to be doing them fortnightly now."
Well, as you've still got the Douglas Luiz shirt in the background for the second week running when you usually change it up, then I think
cost me a lot of money that shirt to get that that sourced and printed. So I'm going to be leaving it for the foreseeable future. Let me tell you, it's international break as well. He's going to be playing for Brazil hopefully.
Ezri Konsa with an England shirt there, shouldn't he?
I'm not made of money. I can't. I've already got an England shirt. I can't be going and spending money on a Konsa England shirt unless they change their kit. If they happen to change their kit this international break, I'll go and do it. But I won't be doing it. I haven't even got anything to bail you out with. I don't think this week. I bailed you out the other two times with the story. I really can't think that I've got anything to bail you out of.
Looks like we're ending there then, doesn't it?
Yeah. I'm just trying to think. No, I've not got anything. I'm gonna have to start prepping things as a backup just in case you don't do it. Hopefully people went and checked out the Gregg Evans photo archives. That's what someone did actually mention that to me at the game yesterday. One of my friends mentioned about that. I stitched you up with the photos in the Google image search of Gregg Evans.
I wouldn't say to stitch you up. I mean, it's me after all. That's how I was. That's how I looked. I couldn't do anything about it. That was me.
It's not so much how you look or anything like that. It's just the things that you were made to do.
Yeah,
and the fact that you do.
We had to point down the camera was a bit annoying. But
it is a brilliant photo, and when
the life of a newspaper reporter.
Yeah, well, I've not seen any of the other journals the Mail have to do that. I've never seen any of them have a picture.
It's different now. Like, that was when the newspaper industry, was thriving almost. It was people went out and bought newspapers. They don't anymore. It's all online. So. That's probably why we're podcasting rather than writing a letter into the newspaper.
And we thank all of you for listening or watching as well. It's really, really appreciated. If you could do all the nice things that you can do on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, that would be great. Please give us a like, please comment, please subscribe. If you can, if you're not subscribed already, that would be great for us. No shows this week as it's the international break, but we'll be back after the international break where hopefully we'll have some good news on Douglas Luiz to talk about with Brazil, Ezri Konsa for England as well, and all the other players that are away on international duty. It'd be great for them to go away with their countries and have more positive times like they are at the Football Club Villa at the moment. Have a great week. Again, thanks ever so much for all the support on the pod. We really, really appreciate it.